JavaScript or JS, whatever you decide to call it, has been around for a very long time and is the best programming language for web developers. It's primarily used for creating dynamic and interactive content on the web. Having JS on your resume will be a blast. If you want to create the next Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, JavaScript is a must language for you. I've created this simple course to get you started with the language. I will encourage you do not skip any part of this if you want to understand the course perfectly. And if you are serious and curious to take your web development to the next level, hit the subscribe button and check the video description to subscribe to my email list. Without further ado, let's hop on to the language. Before we start writing any code, we need a text editor. So I recommend you download VS Code. So just open your browser and search for VS Code, and then you press enter. So click on the first link. So we have the VS Code website open. Just click on download for Windows if you're on Windows. So I think VS Code will automatically select your operating system. So just look for your operating system and download VS Code for that specified operating system. I already have VS Code installed on my PC, so I don't need to download it again. But if you don't have VS Code, just click and download VS Code and install it on your PC. So once you install it, then we can proceed to the next step. Let's start by creating our first project. So I need a folder to wrap everything. So create a new folder over here. So I can call it maybe JS. So I think JS is okay. So open your folder. So once you open your folder, you can just send your cursor to the top over here and click and type CMD to open command prompt to that location. So what we want to do is open VS Code to that directory. So if you type code, then you give space, then period. Let me try to zoom it a little bit. So code space and period. Then if you press enter, then we'll open VS Code to that location. So click on yes, I trust the authors. So now if you check, we have your folder open in VS Code. So now what we want to do is set up a JS file and an HTML file. So let me create an HTML file first. So I can right click, new file, then I can type index.html, then I'll press enter. So now I have my HTML file open over here. So I can create a new JS file. So right click, new file, then main.js, then I'll press enter. So I have two files, index.html and main.js file over here. So let me just close this tab. Let me expand this. Let me increase it a little bit. So now let's open our index.html file. Once you open your index.html file, you first create your HTML boilerplate. So if you use the exclamation mark, so just look for the exclamation mark over here. So for my computer, it's shift, you hold shift and then you press 1. So look for the exclamation mark on your keyboard, then you press enter. So this will return the boilerplate to you. So this is the HTML boilerplate. So now we can connect our JS file to the HTML file and start writing some JS code. So what do I mean? So I can come and then I'll have script. So write script, then you press enter. So inside this script tag, then we'll have src for source. Then you specify the location of your main.js file. So the location of the JS file. So I'll come to this source. So since it's on my root directory, so if you check, it's not in any folder, so it's on the root directory. So I just write main.js. So that's all. So now I have my JS file connected. So now how do I test this to see if it is working? So open your JS file, and then just like any programming language, we first have to print our hello world program. So just type console.log, then you open, then you can have quotations, and here you can have hello world. Can I spell world? So hello world. So now we have console.log hello world over here. So I think mine is automatically saved. So if I write any code, it's automatically saved. But if you don't have this set up, just click over here, then select settings. So let me decrease it so that you'll be able to see. So select text editor, click on files. So once you click on files, if you scroll, I think we'll have auto save. So this is auto save over here. So make sure this auto save. So by default it will be off. So by default it will be off like this. So just select the auto save and select after delay over here. Then you can scroll. Then you can set this delay to 1000, meaning 1 second. So once you have this set up, then you can close your settings. So now if you write any code, VS Code would automatically save the project for you. You can just open your HTML file. Then here I can have an h1 tag, and I can just write hello world. So next, go to your extension tab, and then you can search for, what is it? What is the code? Is it live? I think it's live server. Can I spell live server? So live server. So search for live server. So this is the live server plugin. So click here to install the live server plugin. So I have the live server installed successfully. So I can simply click on my HTML file over here. Then I'll right click. So once you right click and then you scroll down, you have open with live server over here. So click open with live server. You'll have this port listening. So once you click it, it will open it in your browser. So this is the file I've just opened. So now how do I know that my JavaScript file is connected successfully? So just right click, then click on inspect over here. Then you go to the console. So once you go to the console, we'll have this hello world over here. So this is the hello world I've just printed. It means my JavaScript file is connected successfully. So rather than going through all the stress, just come and then I'll close my server. So click here to close the server. So just close everything. And in your extension tab, just look for code runner. So code runner. Can I spell runner? So code runner. So this is the code runner extension. So I already have it installed on my PC. So if you don't have it, you have installed attached to this code runner. Click on the install to install the code runner extension. So once you have it installed, you can click here, the Explorer tab. Then we don't need the HTML file. Again, just delete the HTML file. And now open your main.js file. So this is the main.js file. So now if you right click, you get this run code. That's if you have installed the code runner successfully. So just click on the run code. We have our hello world over here. So just come and print anything. So console.log. So maybe something like welcome to my first JS. Let me just make it project. So now if I right click, run code, we have welcome to my first JS project. So you have just successfully created your first JS project. If you want to level up your programming skills, join my email list and unlock exclusive benefits. You get access to source codes, free books, and my comprehensive YouTube courses, plus weekly programming challenges sent straight to your inbox. Subscribe now to join a community of passionate programmers and get all these amazing resources for free. Click the link in the video description to join now. Let's start by creating a new file first. So let me just increase this, make it a little bigger. So click over here to create a new file. So you can call it comments. So comments.js. So I have my comments.js file open. So what are comments? So comments are simple used to explain our code. So they are not executed by the browser. So what do I mean? So for example, if I have my console.log, then I have hello world like so. So if I come down and then I have this two, is a backslash or forward slash? So I think it's backslash. No, this is not backslash, it's forward slash rather. So if I have two forward slashes over here and then I type anything, so I type something like console.log. So console.log, then I open, and inside here if I type hello world. So if I have this code over here and then I run it, so if I right click, run, we'll have our first code, our first hello world run, and this will not be run. So you may ask, what's the essence of this comment if it is not compiled by the browser? When you are writing your code, you can have 1,000 lines of code and your code can be messy. So you need comments to explain each code. So what do I mean? So let me delete everything. So I can have a comment and then inside this comment, I can just write something like greetings. So I can come, then I can use console.log. Then I'll open, then I'll write something like welcome to my first website. Let's spell website or website. So I can also come and then I can have another comment over here and then I can say maybe H, and here I can have console.log. Can I spell console? What am I writing? So console.log. Then I'll have my H. Oh, it's too much. Let me make it 20 over here. So now if you check the comments, each comment is trying to explain the line of code below it. So now if you're reading your code, then you get to this code, you know that okay, this is greetings, and here we are printing H. So if we check, comments are basically used to explain our code. So for documentation purpose, so that the code will be nicer for you to read. So now if I run my code, I'll have welcome to my first website, and then I'll have 20 over here. I've just created a new file over here, variable.js. So if I collapse this and then I come, so I've just written these comments over here so that we'll have an overview of what we'll be doing over here. So first, you'll learn how to declare variables, use the const, var, let, data type, strings, numbers, boolean, null, and undefined. But what are variables? So variables are simply used to hold data. So they are like containers. So they hold a data, and if you want that data, you can call your variable to grab that data. So let's start by declaring a variable with the const. So the const, just like the name suggests, const, which means constant. So if something is constant, it's absolute. You cannot change it. So for example, if I have a variable, just type const. So if you type const, then the name of your variable. So I can have a variable, I can call it age, which will hold the age of a user. Then you can evaluate it to any number. So 20. So this is my variable age, and the value is 20. So if I come down and then I use console.log, then I open and then I pass my age over here. So now I'm logging the age to the console. So if I right click and then I run my code and then I come, now we'll have 20 logged to the console over here. So that's the const. So if I come again and then I try to assign this age again, so if I say age is equals to 30, then we are going to have problem with our code. So let me run the code, right click and run the code. Then we'll have this crashed over here. That means we are having problem with the code because this age is a constant and you cannot reassign it again. So just remove this. So we can also concatenate a string to this. So what do I mean? So I can just come over here and then I can write something like, so just make it, just write age, then give space, then put a comma before this age like this. So now if I run my code, we'll have age 20. So I think now is better. So let me clear the output And now, next is the var. So what's the var? The var is also a keyword which is used to create a variable. But with the var, you can reassign the value. So what do I mean? So for example, we have an age. So I can have something like var. Then I can have age. Then I'll set it equals to 12. So now if I come down, and then so we are having a problem because we have already created age. Then I'm trying to create age again. So just call this my age. So my age, and then I'll come down. So now if I use console.log, then I can log something like my age. Then I can have my underscore age. So if I right click, right click, run code, I'll have my age, which is 12. So let me put some column over here. So now what will happen if I try to assign my age? So I can say my age is equals to maybe 13. So maybe 1 year later. So now I've assigned this my age to 13. So now if I right click and then I run my code, I will have 13 instead of 12 over here. So if you are creating a variable and then the variable is a constant, so it's something that will not change. So you can go with the const, but if it's a variable that will change, then you can go with the var over here. So what about the let? So the let is more like the var. So the var is more like an olden day paradigm. So at first it was the var we were using, but now JavaScript has introduced the let. So you can go with the let instead of the var. So the var and the let are more like the same, but the let is more modern. So if I write let, and then I can have something like age, or not age again, so maybe score. So let's score, and then I'll set it equals to maybe 30. So I can say, okay, score is equals to maybe 70. So we have decided to add max to the user. So now if I use console.log, can I spell my log? Console.log score. Oh my god. So score. So right click, run our code, then we'll have the score 70 because we have reassigned the score to 70 instead of 30 over here. So another way to write variables is, for example, if I have too many variables, for example, I have scores for maths, English, science. So what do I mean? So if I write let, then I can have maths, then I'll have comma, then I'll have English, then I'll have comma again, then I'll have something like programming. Let me remove maths, English, and let's use programming languages. So HTML and CSS, then JS. So I have two variables initiated over here. So HTML, CSS, and JS with this one line of code. So now we can assign them. So I can say HTML is equals to maybe like 20. So 20 people like HTML. So CSS is equals to 30. So can I spell? So 30 and JS is equals to maybe 16. So now if I come and then I use my console.log, so console.log, so I can log the HTML. So HTML. So I'll copy this. So grab this, copy it, and then bring it down and paste it again. So bring it down again. So I'll change this to CSS and this to CSS. So we'll have JS and we'll have JS again. So if I run my code, we'll have HTML, CSS, and we'll have JS. If you are creating too many variables, it's recommended you use the let. Then you initialize all the variables over here, and then you can start reassigning the values to the variables. And then you can call your variables to grab those values back. So next, if we scroll down, so next is data types. So what are data types? So first, we are going to explain the primitive data types, or simply the basic data types we have in JS. So first is a string. So what's a string? So a string is more like a sequence of characters. So for example, if I have a username, so a username is a string because they are sequence of characters or user biography or your address. So for example, if I have let, and then I can have username, then I'll set it equals to. Then to create a string, you can use the double quotes or the single quotes. So I can use single quotes or double quotes. Then you can write something like John Doe. So if you check, this is a sequence of characters. We have JOHN. So there are sequence of characters. So it's definitely a string. So a string is a sequence of characters. So now if I try to print my username, and then I run my code, then I come. So I think we are having a problem. So I'm writing print. Oh my god, I'm writing Python code. So it's not print, it's console.log. So console.log, and then I'll run my code. So now if we come, we'll have John Doe over here. So we can create another variable too. So I can create another variable. I'll call it let. Then I can call it more like greetings. So greetings, then I'll set it equals to. So watch what I'm doing. So if I write something like welcome, then I'll use the plus sign, then I'll use username. So now I'm writing welcome, then I'm attaching my username to the welcome over here. And then I've just created another variable called greeting. Then I've evaluated to this welcome and I've concatenated the username to the welcome. So now if I use console.log, then greeting, and I run my code, then I scroll, we'll have welcome, then John Deal. So if you check, there's no space over there, so I can choose to concatenate an empty space over here. So if I put a string and then I add, and inside the string I'll give a space so that we'll have a space between the welcome and the username. So now if I run my code and then I scroll, we'll have welcome John Deal. So this is string in a nutshell. So we'll learn more about string in later part of the video. So let me come down. So next we have a number. So what's a number? So if you scroll, we have already created some numbers over here. So it's just the same. So if I create a number, so let, then I can call it user age, and I'll set it equals to, so something like maybe 20. So now I can have something like console.log. Then I'll open over here, I'll have user age. But if you check the numbers, we don't have quotations, just like a string. So the numbers are not put in, the numbers are not enclosed in the quotations. So why don't we enclose numbers in the quotations? So it's pretty simple. So if I put this 20 in quotations, so let me remove one of the quotations. So if I have this 20 over here, and then watch what will happen. So if I run the code, nothing will happen. We'll have our 20 back. I think we are having a problem over here. So let me look for the problem. So user age. So let me remove this, and then let me put it in double quotes and see. So let me run my code. So I think we have our 20. So why is it not working in a single quotes? So let me put in a single quotes again. So 20 is supposed to work. So right click, run the code. Okay, it's working. So we have 20. So now if we try to add something to this 20, for example, if I say user age plus 1, so I'm adding 1 to the 20 over here. If I right click and then I run my code, so now check what we are having. We are having 2, 0 and 1 because we are trying to concatenate this 1 to this 20, and this 20 is a string, it's not a number. So that's why we are having 2, 0 and we are having 1. So we'll have to change this 20 to a number. So just remove the quotations and it will convert it to a number. So now if I right click and then I run my code, we'll have 21 instead of 201 because this is a number and we are trying to add another number to the number. So we can have float numbers. So if I write 20 or 20.4. So you can have float. So right click, round out equals, have 21.4 over here. So since it's an age, say let's remove the point because it's not an ideal to have points on an age of a user. So that's numbers in a nutshell. So next we have booleans. So what are booleans? So booleans are more like true or false, or you can call it on or off. So true or false, or on or off. So that's booleans for you. So just we can have true. For example, we can check if a user is qualified. So I can write is qualified. Can I spell qualified? So it's qualified. Then I'll set it equals to. So if the user is qualified, I'll set it equals to true. If the user is not qualified, then I'll set it equals to false. So that's booleans for you. Yes, true or false. So we are going to use booleans in later part of the video. So just know that they are true or false values. So they are used to check if a value is either true or false before you trigger something. So now we have null. For example, I can have let, then I'll have user, then I'll set it equals to null. So equals to null. So null means the value is not assigned to any data type. So it means the value is not assigned to data type. So for example, if I have a user biography, the biography do not have any data, then we can just set it equals to null because there's no data assigned to that biography. So that's the null for you. So next we have undefined. So undefined means that variable is not defined. So we do not have that variable. So for example, check what will happen if I try to print console.log something. So console.log, then I'll write something like maybe my user name. So now if I run my code, then I scroll, then we'll have this. We'll have my user is not defined. So it means my user is undefined. So undefined means that variable or that data type is not defined. So that's variables in a nutshell for you. So next is how do we name our variables? So next is naming our variables. So I didn't put this on naming. Can I spell naming variables? So in naming variables, there are some keywords you cannot use. So for example, we cannot use space. So for example, if I want to write username, so user, so I cannot write username like so. So if I write username, then it's wrong. So if we check, we have this reddish tickling line below because we are having a problem. So it's supposed to be connected to this. So username like so. So we can not also have some special characters over here. So I cannot have this and I cannot have this percentage. I cannot have any of these characters. So just write the name of your variable and make sure there's no space between your variables. So there are also some paradigms in creating variables. So what do I mean? So for example, if I want to write user age, so I can just write user, so user age, then I'll set it equals to 30. So another way to write user age is that you change this A to capital. So for example, user age, so you start with small, and for the subsequent words you always start each character of the word with a capital. So what do I mean? So we have a user age. For example, we can have user. So for the biography, start the B with capital. So user bio, let's spell biography, then I'll set it equals to this. So this is another way to name your variables. So starting the first character of the subsequent words with a capital. So user biography is started with capital B. So another way is also, so this is what we call the camel case. So this is the camel case paradigm. So another way is using underscore. So what do I mean? So for example, user, then we'll put underscore, then we'll have age, and we can set it equals to maybe 30. Then we can have user underscore biography. Then we'll set it equals to then our text. So this is another way to name your variables. So if we check this, so if we check the naming, so if we check now, our variables are more nicer. String methods are simple operations that can be performed on a string. For example, getting the length of a string, converting a string to uppercase, lowercase, the index of a character, slicing, splitting, and converting a number to a string, and also replacing some certain words in a string. So we'll learn how to perform all these methods. So let's start with the length. So the length is pretty simple. So for example, let's have our string. So for example, let's have greetings. So greetings, that I'll set it equals to something like welcome to my first JS project. So this is the string we have over here. So we can get the length of the string by using the length method. So it's pretty simple. So I can cite console.log, then I'll open and I'll have greetings. So first of all, you write the string. So the string is greeting. So you put period, then you write the method. So the method here is the length. So I'll select length. So this will simply return the length of my string. So if I run my code, we'll have 30 returned to us because 30 is the length of our string. So beware that empty spaces are characters. So to count these empty spaces and add them to their lengths. Next is uppercase. So how do we convert to uppercase? So let me remove this. So let's reuse the same string over here. So to convert it to uppercase is pretty simple. So I can write console.log, then I'll open. So let me first of all create a variable let upper. So let me call it upper. Then I'll set it equals to greetings. Then I'll use the dot. Then I'll call to uppercase. So to uppercase. The to uppercase method is used to convert it to uppercase. So now if I use console.log, so if I log the upper, and then now if I run my code, so if I run the code, we'll have welcome to my first JS project, and it's converted to uppercase. So now let's try to convert it to lowercase. It's similar to the uppercase. So let me comment this out so that we'll not have this console again. So now I'll have let lower, then I'll set it equals to, and then I'll use greeting dot to lowercase, so to lowercase. Then I'll call the method. So now if I try to use console.log, and then I log this out, then I run my code. So now we'll have this converted to lowercase over here. So this is how to simply convert to uppercase and converting to lowercase. So next is getting the index of a character. So for example, let's get the index of this L or the index of this W. So the index is simple the position of that character. So it's pretty simple. So console.log. So I'll write my string greeting, then I'll put dot, then I'll write index of, then I'll open this, and then I'll pass the character inside here. So I'll pass the character I want. So W, so if I put capital W, so this W is capital, so make sure it's capital here. And if you use smaller case W, so use smaller case W. So for my case, it's capital case. So if I run my code, we'll have 0. So the index of this W is 0. What about the L? So L, and then if I run my code for the L is 2 because it's 0, 1, and then we'll have 2 over here. So this is how to get the index of a character. So let's get the index of the J. So J, then I run my code, then we'll have 20 over here. So this is how to get the index of any character from a string. So next is slicing. So what is slicing? So slicing means get part of a string. So for example, if I want to get the first 5 characters, I can slice it. So for example, let me get the first 5 characters. I will use console.log to log it out. So to get the first 5 characters, so first of all, you write your string, so greeting, then period, then slice, then you open. So next, you put the start and then the end of your slice. So I'm starting from 0. So 0 means I'm starting from the first character over here, and then I'm ending it at the 5th. So now if I run my code and then I come, we'll have the first 5 characters over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll have 5 over here. So this is how to get the first 5 characters with the slice. So first of all, you put the index where you want to start and where you want to end. So another way, so for example, if I need the last, let me count these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I need the last 7 characters, I'll put minus, then I'll put 7. So now if I run my code, we'll have the last 7 characters return to us, which is project over here. So another way to slice is using the slice index. So what do I mean? So first of all, let's create an email. So let's create an email. So I like using this when I'm creating my project. For example, let me have John Doe at gmail.com. For example, if you have a user email and then you want to get the username from the email, so you need only the username from this, then we can slice it with the slice index. So what do I mean? So I can have username that I set it equals to, so I want to get the John Doe from the email. So I like using this when I'm creating my applications. I just let the user type your email, then I'll get your name from the email. So it's pretty simple. So just write the email dot slice. So slice. So here I'm slicing from 0, so I'll put 0. Then I want to slice it to this @ symbol. So this @ symbol over here. So to get it, so I'll write email, then I'll get the index of the @ symbol. So dot index. So index, can I spell index? So index of, then I'll open the index of the @ symbol. So I'll put my @ over here. So here I'm starting from 0 and I'm slicing to the index of this @ symbol. So it will stop over here. So now if I use console.log and the username, then I run my code and then I scroll, we'll get John Doe returned to us. So if I change this John Doe to something like Mary Jane, when I spell my Jane, so Mary Jane, then I run, we'll have Mary Jane slice out of the email. So next we have split. So just like the name suggests, to simple split the string. So for example, if I come, I can split my strings. So for example, if let me log it. So console.log, let's try to split it. So to split it, we'll have greeting. So greeting.split, and I open. Then I'll put the splitter over here. So what's the splitter? So the splitter is definitely the character I want to target over here. The characters I want to use to split is the empty spaces. So I want to split them by the empty spaces over here. So that we'll have welcome, we'll have to, we'll have my. So basically to split the words from the string. So I'll put an empty space over here. So put space over here. So now if I run my code, we'll split it with the spaces over here. So we can also split with a comma, even though we do not have a comma over here. So for example, let me have fruits, and I'll set it equals to a string. So I can have my kiwi fruit, I'll put comma, and then I'll have orange. So orange, now I have orange. So orange, and then I'll have banana, and I'll have papaya over here. Can I spell papaya? Papaya. So now if I try to split it, so fruits, then I'll split them by the comma. So I'll put comma over here. So now if I run my code, I'll have my fruit split over here. So this is how to simply use the split method. So next is a number to a string. So how do you convert a number to a string? For example, I have a number, so num, and it's equals to 40. So it's equals to 40 over here. So now if I use console.log, then I write num plus 30, and then I run my code, will have 70 because it's a number. So now let's try to convert this number to a string. So it's pretty simple. So just write num dot to string. So the to string will simply convert it to a string. Then I put this. So now if I run, we'll have 40 and we'll have 30 because we have converted the number to a string. So next we have replace. So how do we replace something, a character or a word in a string? So for example, if I have something like greetings, so greetings. So first we have greetings over here. So let me use this for example. So let me use the example above over here, the greeting, and then here we'll try to replace this JS over here with HTML. So let me remove this and I'll use my console.log. Then I'll have my greeting. Then I'll use my replace method. So replace, and then I open. So I'll put what I want to replace over here. So I want to replace the JS. So JS. So I want to replace this JS over here. So the next parameter is what you want to replace it with. So I want to replace it with HTML. So HTML. So now if I run my code and then I come, welcome to my first, instead of JS project, we'll have HTML project. So this is string methods in a nutshell for you. Functions make our code modular. So what do I mean? For example, if you create your website or your application and then you have users, you have, for example, comments, users, chat, whatever. For example, if you need the list of all your users, then you can create a function. So anytime you need the list of all your users, you can simply call that function to grab the list of all your users so that you not have repetitions of code in your codes. So for example, let's create a function that will say hello world. So this function will greet the user. So let's start by creating a function. So to create a function, you first of all write function. So function like so. And then next is the name of your function. So I can call it greetings. So greetings. Then you put parentheses. After the parentheses, then you have curly braces. So this is how to create a function. So function, then the name of your function, then parentheses, then you have your curly braces. So inside this function, I can simply greet the user. So I can say console.log. So console.log hello. So let me remove this and let's create a variable first. So let's create a variable username. Then I'll set it equals to John Doe. So here I can simply use console.log. Then I just write my log. Console.log something like welcome. Then I'll concatenate an empty string, concatenate again, then username. So now, if I run my code, nothing really will happen. So if you check, nothing is really happening. There's nothing fancy going on over here. So let me clear the output. Before we get our function, we have to call it. So we have to call the function before we can use the function. So let me bring the call over here. So how do we call a function? It's pretty simple. You write the name of your function. So the name of my function is greetings. So I write greetings, then I put parentheses. So this will simply call the function. So if I right click and then I run my code, so now we'll have welcome John Doe. So this is the use of the functions. So for example, anytime I want to run this code, so anytime I need welcome, so anytime I want to greet the user, I'll simply use this function to just run this code over here instead of rewriting the whole code all over again in my course. So next is the arrow function. So the arrow function is more like the new paradigm of writing functions. So it's a new way of writing functions. So this is the old way. So with the arrow function, it's pretty simple. They have just simplified how to write functions. So for example, to use the arrow function, you can have a variable first. So for example, I can have a let, then you write the name of your function. So greetings, then you evaluate it, then you have parentheses, and here you put equal sign, then you have a greater than sign over here, then you bring your parentheses. So this is how to write an arrow function. So it's just the same as writing this, but this is look much nicer than this. So here I can have my let user again. So let user is equals to, for example, John Doe. So let me just console.log the user. So console.log the user. So now if I run my code, so let me clear everything. Sometimes you just need to clear because I'm sure there's nothing wrong with this. So I think we are rewriting the same greetings over here. So I think that's the problem. So change these greetings to maybe something like greeting. So I think this one have S and this one no S. So they are different altogether. So let's call the function before the function can run. So greeting, then parentheses to call the function. So if we run the code, so now we'll have John Doe over here. So we have just called our arrow function. So this is how to write an arrow function. So next is function with arguments and returning a value. So what are arguments? So for example, let me create a function. So let's create a function to calculate the product of two numbers. So for example, let's calculate, then I'll set it equals to an arrow function. Then I'll come over here. So for this function, if I come for this function, I'll have to pass two arguments. So one is x and two is y. So you can just make this number one or number two or whatever you decide to name it. So I'm using x and y. So x for my first number and y for my next number. So here we are going to return the product of x multiplied by y. So x then multiply with the asterisk y. So this will simply return the product of x multiplied by y. But what is x, what is y? We'll get back to that. So to specify x and y, we need to call our function. So calculate, then we'll open, and now if we check, we'll have x and then we'll have y over here. So for the x, I'll have 20. For the y, I'll have 40 because the x comes first before the y. So that means this 20 is for x and this 40 is for y. So watch what will happen if I comment the return out and then I come, then I console.log. So let me console.log my x. So x, x. So let me have my x and let me have console.log. Then I'll have my y. So y. So now if I run my code, so let me clear everything and then rerun the code again. So rerun the code. I think we are having a problem over here. So we have, okay, I think there's a wrong spelling over here. So console.log. So let me run the code. So let me run it. So now we have x20 and we have y equals to 40. So these are arguments we have just passed over here. We have 20 and we have 40. So if I change this 40 to 50, then I run my code. So now we'll have 20 and then we'll have 50. So now instead of printing these, we'll simply return the product of the x and then the y. So now if I return and then I run my code, and then I come, okay, nothing is really happening because even though we are returning it, it will simply store what we are returning on this over here, on where we are calling the function. So we have to create another variable to store the result. And then we can grab the result from that variable. So what do I mean? So if I have another variable, I'll call it result, then I'll set it equals to calculate, then this. So this will simply save the value of the return over here, and then we'll wrap it with the result. So now if I use console.log, I use log, then result. So now if I run my code and then we'll come over here, so now we'll have 1000 over here because this result is saving what we have just returned over here. So here we are just writing one line of code. So instead of putting the curly braces, we can just remove the curly braces. And here we can have x multiplied by y, like so. So this is the same as what we did, and this look much cleaner. So now if I run my code, will have the same 1,000 over here. So we are writing one line of code, so we don't need to put the curly braces again. So we can just use one line of code to return whatever you want to return with the arrow function over here. So we can also pass a string as our argument. So what do I mean? So I can write something like welcome. Then I set it equals to an arrow function, so we can have a username. So here we are returning a string, and this string we are returning something like welcome. Then I'll add the username. So add the username. So user name, like so. So let me put my plus sign to concatenate it. So welcome, then I'm adding the username. So now if I have something like is a result again. So let me change it to something like something like welcome user. Then I'll set it equals to. Then I'll have my welcome. Then I call the function. So here I'll pass the string. So how do I pass the string? So I can write anything here, or I can create another variable and then I can call it username. Then I'll set it equals to something like Mary Doe. So here I'll pass my username. So username. So now if I use console.log welcome user, because this welcome user is storing whatever is returned by our welcome function, and our welcome function is taking an argument which is the username, and this username is simple this variable we have just assigned a Mary Doe, and then we are passing it over here. So now if I run my code, we'll have welcome Mary Doe over here. So this is basically how to write functions in JavaScript. What is an object? An object is used to group related data of an entity. For example, we can have a user entity, then we can have the data of the user. For example, the username, the user first name, last name, email address, and the user's biography. So we need an object so that we can have this related data of the entity grouped together. So what do I mean? Let's create an object. So for example, we can have let, then we can have a user entity. Then we can set it equals to create an object, we use the curly braces. So curly braces like so. So you define the key and then the value. So the key is used to get the value. So for example, we have the first key, which is the first name of the user. Then I can set the first name of the user to equals to something like John. So let's just make it John. So we can add another key. So we use the comma to separate them. So you can have maybe last, I spell last name. Now set the last name to something like Doe. Then I can have the email of the user. So email, so johndoe@gmail.com. So these are the data related to this user over here. And then we have just put all of them inside an object. So we can also have the user's full name over here. So full name. So we have first name and then we have last name. So I can have full name. So the full name will be the first name plus the last name. So first name plus the last name. Plus the last name. So John Doe. But if you check, we're having duplicates over here, which is unnecessary. So here we can have a function. So you can also put a function inside an object. So what do I mean? So this full name will be a function. So let me remove this over here, and here we can have a function. So inside this function, I will return the full name of the user. So simply return the full name, and the full name is the first name plus the last name. So to get the first name, we can simply use the this keyword. So this means we are referencing to this object. So if I use this dot first name, we'll grab the first name of the user, then I'll add this dot last name. So last name. So this is a function returning the first name plus the last name. So let's put an empty space over here so that we'll have an empty space between the first name and the last name, so that we'll not add them and mix the characters together. So this function is simple, returning the first name plus the last name of the user. So now if I come, how do we access the elements? How do we access the first name, the last name, the email, and then the full name? So it's pretty simple. Let me first of all console.log my function out. So user. So let me run my code. So if you come, we'll have first name, we'll have last name, email, and we'll have the full name as a function over here. So now how do I access the first name, the last name, or the email? So it's pretty simple. So I can create my variables. I can have email, I can have first name, so first name. So sorry, let me use my camel case. So first name, last name, and then I can also have full name. So I've initiated 4 variables over here: email, first name, last name, and then the full name. So to grab the email, so let's first of all grab the email first. It's pretty simple. To grab the email, I can evaluate my email variable to be equals to, you write the name of your object. So the object is user. So just write object, then you put period, then the name of the key. So the key there is email. So this will simply return the email to me. So now if I print, so if I print my email, so email, so let me write email, let me put comma over here, and then I'll have my email. So if I right click and run my code, and then I come, so if I have any problem, let me clear the output. Sometimes you just need to clear the output because there's no problem with my code. So let me run again. So let me scroll. So print, oh my god, I like using the print. So change it to console.log. So console.log. So if I come, I'll have email, then I'll have johndoe@gmail.com. So that's how to simply access any of the attributes over here. You just write the name of the object, then you put period, then the name of the key. So if I want the first name, it's pretty simple. It's similar to this email. So I can have my first name, that I'll set it equals to, let me put space over here. Then I can have user dot first name. Another way is to put square brackets, then you put something like this, so you have the key like so. So if you write this, you can also access any of the keys. So first name means first name. If I put email, it means email. So let me use this method to access the first name. So first name. So now if I use console.log, then I can have first name. So let me add them together. So first name, so first name. So if I run my code, we'll have the first name John over here. So this is another way to also access any of the key, but I recommend you use the period, then you just write the key. So first name like so. So now we need the full name, and the full name is a function over here, and the function returns the first name plus the last name. So it's pretty simple. So full name, and I'll set it equals to user like so, then I'll put period, then the function. So the function is full name. So I called my function. So how do we call the function? You just call your function by putting parentheses. So now if I use console.log full name, and then I run my code, we'll have the full name John Doe returned to us over here. So next is modifying elements. So how do we add and modify elements? So for example, let's add an address. So let me come over here, and then we'll try to add an address. It's pretty simple. just write the name of your function, put period, then the name of the key you want to add. So I want to add address, then I'll set it equals to, so maybe something like Sand Street 47. So this, I have added an address. So now if I use console.log, then I log my user out, then I run my code. So now if we come, we'll have address added to our function over here. So this is how to simple add a new element to your function. So next is modifying element. So how do we modify the element? So for example, we want to update the first name or the last name. So how do we update it? So it's pretty simple. It's similar to add-on. So just write the name of your object, then you put period, then I can grab my first name and then I can reassign it to something else. So I can reassign it to something like Mary. So now hopefully if I print console.log my user.first name, then I run my code and then I scroll down, we'll have Mary because we have changed the first name to Mary. So if I remove this and then I leave my user and then I run my code, so now we have our first name Mary, last name Doe, and then we have added the address to our object. So this is objects in a nutshell for you. The if and else statement is used to run a block of code based on a particular condition. So there's a condition. So if the condition is true, then the code is fired. But before we write if and else statement, we need to understand the operators we can use. So first, we have the equals to operator. This is used to check if a case is equals to another case. And then we have the not equals to. So with the not equals to, you put exclamation mark, then you have an equal sign. So this is used to check if a case is not equals to another case. So next we have the greater than, and then we have the less than. You can also have the greater than or equals to. So greater than or equals to check if the case is either greater than or is equals to. And then we have the less than or equals to over here. So I think this will be the operators we'll be using to check our condition. So we have the equals to sign, the not equals to, the greater than, the less than. Then we have the greater than or equals to, and then we have the less than or equals to. So first, let's start by creating a number first. So let's have a number. So number, so let num is equals to, so let's just make it 20. So we want to check if this number is equals to 20. So it's pretty simple. You write if, then you give space, then you put parentheses. And inside this parentheses over here, then you can have your statement. So what's the statement? The statement is to check if the number is equals to 20. So if num, and num is 20 over here, is equals to, then I put 20. So if num is equals to 20, then our simple console.log, then I can write something like maybe the statement is true. So now if I run my code, hopefully we'll have the statement is true because the num is equals to 20. So watch what will happen if I change this to be maybe 12. So now we are checking if num is equals to 12. In this case, it's false. So now if I run my code, then we'll have nothing over here because this num is not equals to 12. So that's where the else statement comes in handy. So that if the if statement is wrong or is false, then it will switch to the else statement and fire the else statements. So with the else statement, I can have console.log, then I can write something like the statement is false. So now if I run my code, we'll have the statement is false because our if statement over here is false. So now let's use the not equals to. So I can also have not equals to. So the not equals to means if the number is not equals to 12. So if you check, the number is 20. So the number is not equals to 12. So if I run my code, then we'll have the statement is true because the number over here is not equals to 12. So let's change the number to be equals to 12. And then I run, then we'll have the statement is false because the number over here is equals to 12. So next we have the greater than. So let me change it to greater than. Is the number greater than 12? Is wrong because the number over here is exactly 12. So if I run, we'll have the statement is false because the number is not greater than 12. So what about the greater than or equals to? Then the statement will be equals to true, even though the number is not greater than 12, but the number is equals to 12. So that's the greater than or equals to. If I run my code, so we are having problem. Let me clear everything. Let me run the code again. So we have the statement is true because the number is equals to 12, even though the number is not greater than 12. So if we change the number to be greater than 12, so greater than 12, we'll still have the statement is true because the number is greater than 12. So if I run, then I scroll. So let me clear everything. Then I'll rerun my code again. So we'll have the statement is true. So the number is greater than 12. So we have the less than or equals to is the same as the greater than over here. So I don't need to explain it again. So now let's jump to the else if statement. For example, we can have our first condition and I'll check if the number is equals to 12. I'll simply write the number is 12. So I'll come to the else if statement. I'll have else if, then I'll have another condition over here. And inside this condition, I'll check if the number is equals to then 13, then I'll console.log. So console.log, the number is 13 there. So the number is 13. So now check, I have an else if statement over here. And the first if is checking if the number is 12, I'll print the number is 12. And then I'll jump here to check if the number is not 12, I'll come to the else if statement and I'll check if the number is 13, then I'll print the number is 13. Else if both of these conditions are wrong, then I'll jump straight to my else statement over here. So now the number is 13, so we'll have the number is 13. So if I run my code, have the number is 13. So if I change it to 12 and then I run my code, then we'll have, so sorry, let me clear everything again. So sometimes you have to rerun your code before it will work. So if I run, I'll have the number is 12. So now if I put another else if statement, else if, then I'll have the number. So I'll check if the number is greater than, so let me put greater than 20. Then I'll simple console.log. So sorry. So console.log. Then I'll have the number is greater than 20. Or my code look messy. So let me try to clean it. So let me bring it down so that the code will look nicer. So okay, so I think now it looks nicer. So now I'm checking if the number is 12, I'll print the number is 12. If the number is equals to 13, I'll print the number is 13. And if the number is not equals to 12 and it's not equals to 13 and the number is greater than 20, I'll print the number is greater than 20. And if the number is not also greater than 13 and all this is false, then I'll jump straight to this. Now let's change the number to something like maybe 30. So 30. Is the number equals to 12? False. Is the number equals to 13? False. Is the number greater than 20? True. Then I'll fire this. So now if I run my code, so let me clear everything again. I don't know why I keep on having this error and run again. So we'll have the number is greater than 20 because the number over here is greater than 20. So if I change it to something like 11, then I will check, is the number equals to 12? False. Is the number equals to 13? False. Is the number greater than 20? False. So we'll have the statement is false. If I run, I'll have the statement is false over here. So you can also use the if and the else statements to check a string. For example, let's have a string over here. So I'll have a user. Now set it equals to John Doe. So I can check if, so I can check if user, if the user is equals to John Doe, so John Doe, then, so sorry, let me put this, so I'll console.log hello user. So hello, then I'll try to add the user. So hello, then I'll add the user over here. So let me put some empty strings so that I'll separate them with a space. So now check if the user is equals to John Doe. I'll print this over here. So now if I run, I'll have hello John Doe because the user is equals to John Doe. So if I change this user, let me add S over here and then I run, okay, we'll have nothing over here because the user is not John Doe. So if I put the not equals to over here, so not like so, and then I run my code, so we'll have hello John Doe because the user is not equals to John Doe over here. So this is how to use the not operator over here too. So I can also come down and then, so let me change this to Doe. So I can come down also, and then I can also have a password, and then I can have it over here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can have a statement. I can check if the password, if the length of the password. So if the password, so and how do we get the length? By using the length method. So if the length of the password is greater than maybe 6, then we'll simple print, so console.log the password is strong. The password is, can I spell is strong. Then we can have an else statement over here. So else, remove one of my e, else our console.log the password is weak. So console.log the password is weak. So we are checking if the length of the password is greater than 6, then the password is strong. So let's check the length. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is exactly 6. So the password is weak. So if I add another thing, so let me add, and then I run, then we'll have the password is strong over here. So you can also use the if and the else statement to check your passwords. So next we have the switch statement. So what is the switch statement? So the switch is more like if we want to write a number of else if statements, like our case over here. If we check the code over here is messy, so we want to have a clean code. So what do I mean? So for example, let's check the days of the week. So let's have a day over here, and this day will be Monday. So I can have a switch statement. So switch statement. So watch what will happen. So if I write switch, so this is the switch statement. So let me just rewrite it so that it will not confuse you. So you type switch, put parentheses, then you pass your value over here. So this is the value Monday. So after that, you have this over here. Then you check your first case. So what is your first case? Your first case will be if the value is equals to Monday, then our console.log. So console log and I'll log this is a good Monday. So I'll come and then I'll break it. So break, so just write break. Then I'll have another case. So another case. So in case is equals to, maybe let's have Friday. So let's have Friday and our console.log. So console.log. So we'll have good Friday. Then I'll break it. So break. You can have another case. So in case it is equals to maybe Saturday. So in case it's equals to Saturday, our simple console.log something like have a nice Saturday. Have a nice Saturday. So I'll break it. So break. So in case all of this is false, so in case the value here is not Monday, it's not Friday, it's not Saturday, then we are going to have a default case over here. So just type default and then come down, and here our console.log. So something like it's a very bad day. So now if you check this, the case is what? Monday. So we'll have this is a good Monday. So if I run my code, we'll have this is a good Monday. So if I change this to maybe Friday, Friday, then I run my code, so we'll have Good Friday. If I change it to Saturday, so let me just copy this Saturday, and then I paste it over here. If I run, we'll have a nice Saturday. So what if it's not Friday, it's not Saturday, and it's not Monday? So maybe it's Wednesday. So Wednesday, I spell Wednesday. So Wednesday, then I run. So we'll have it's a very bad day because all of these conditions over here are false. This is how to use JavaScript conditions in a nutshell for you. Or sometimes called list, just like the name suggests, are used to group a list of related elements together. For example, we can have a list of our favorite courses, a list of all our website users, and a list of all our website products. So let's start by creating an array. So we can have a list of our users. So I can have users, then I set it equals to create an array. We use a square brackets. So just put square brackets. Then inside the square brackets, we can have our list over here. So we can have our first user, which is John Doe. Then you put comma. Then we'll have our second user, which is Mary Jane. And we can have the third user, which is Michael. Then we can have our fourth user, which is maybe something like Seth over here. So this is the list of our users over here. So first, let's print the array out. So I can use console. So console.log, and then I can have my users. Now if I run my code, then I'll have my array over here. So first, let's try to get the length of the array. So how do we get the length of the array? So let's get it. So to get the length of the array, we use the length method. So console.log, log. So first I'll write length, so length. Then I'll come, and then I'll try to get the length. To get the length, we write the name of your array. So users, then I can use the dot length method. So dot length, like so. So this will return the length of the array. So if I run my code, we'll have 4 over here because we have 4 elements in our array. So next is accessing the elements. So how do we access the elements in this array? It's pretty simple. So let me comment this out. So in accessing the element, we access them by their index. So the first element have an index of 0 to 1 respectively going. So the index starts from 0. So to get the first element, we access it via the index which is 0. So for example, if I need the first user, I can get it. So console.log, log. So let's log the first user out. So I'll write the name of my array, which is users, and I'll put square brackets. So square brackets, and then I'll put the index, which is 0. So this will return the first element. So if I run my code, we'll have John Doe over here. If I change this to 1, then if I run, I'll get Mary Jane over here. So what about if you want to get the last element? So this is the last element. So for example, if you have a list of your website and the users are maybe 1,000 and you want to get the last element, but you don't really know, you cannot count the array with your naked eye. So to get the last element is pretty simple. So to get the index of the last element, we simply write our array, which is users. So users again, and I'll put the length of the array, so the length. So this will return the last element. So now if I run my code, then I come, okay, we are getting undefined because the length will be 4 and the last element is not 4 by index. So by index, it will be 3. So we have to minus 1 over here. So I'll put minus 1. So now hopefully if I run my code, we'll get the last element, which is saved over here. So this is how to simply get the last element of your array. To get the last by second, so put minus 2 and we'll get Michael over here. So this is how to simply access elements in the array. So symbol, write the array, then we put square brackets, then you put the index of the element you want to access. So now what about adding an element and removing elements in our array? So it's pretty simple. So to add an element, so we'll have users, then I'll use the dot push to add an element. So dot push, then I'll open here, then I'll write the element over here. So what's the element we want to add? So now we want to add a new user over here. So let's add a new user, which will be Jennifer. Can I spell Jennifer? So Jennifer. So now if I log, so console.log users, and then I come down. So now if I run my code, so now we'll have Jennifer added to our array. So this is how to simple add an element. So I can duplicate this, then I'll change this to maybe Roman, and I'll run it, and we'll have Jennifer and we'll have Roman added. So now how about removing elements? So to remove element is pretty simple. So to remove element, we use the users again, dot pop. So dot pop, can I spell pop? So pop, then we'll open over here. So this will remove the last element from the array and return it. So now if you check, so this is the explanation over here. So now if I come, the last element over here is Roman. So if I console.log, so console.log my users out, so users, and then I run my code, then we'll have Roman removed over here. So that's how to remove the element, the last element from our array. So now how about accessing everything? So now I want to access everything in the array over here. So for example, if we have a list of users and there are 1,000, and then you want to populate the 1,000 users on your website, so you cannot go about writing 1,000 lines of code and accessing them one by one by their index. So this is where the looping comes. So first we'll look at how to use the mapping to get all the elements in the array. So how do we use the mapping? And then we'll look at how to use the looping too. So let's start with mapping. So to use the map, simple, right? Users, then you put dot map like so. Then you open over here, and then you can write anything. I can just write doc over here. Then I'll come over like so. So inside this mapping, if I use console.log, so if I use console.log and then I open, then I put doc over here. So this doc will save the individual elements in the array. So users.map, then I open my doc and then I have this over here. So now if I run my code, so now we'll have all of the array elements mapped and returned to us.